Welcome to the Creative Life Story Work podcast, where we explore how to make life story work better for all care-experienced children and young people. Creative life story work is an approach which can improve children and young people's lives and their relationship with others at home and at school. It's based on the Rose model of therapeutic life story work. Every month, we'll explore a different aspect of creative life story work, and we'll give insights into how you can use this approach to help care-experienced children and young people make sense of their past and build a brighter future. Today, we are focusing on All About Us, our pilot project where we explored creative life story work for care leavers. We'll be chatting to Blue Cabin Associate Artist Ruth Mary Johnson, who was the lead artist on the project, and Faye Marsh from Darlington Borough Council, who we partnered with. So first up, I am absolutely delighted to welcome Blue Cabin Associate Artist Ruth Mary Johnson to our podcast studio. Ruth is a theatre maker, and sharing and creating stories with others is at the heart of her practice. Ruth performs, directs, and writes a whole range of stories. And in her work as a facilitator, she finds the power of storytelling helps us to understand and make sense of the world around us and can bring people together in a shared sense of adventure. Hello, Ruth.
Hello.
How lovely to see you.
Hello, it's lovely to be here on my first podcast with Blue Cabin. In fact, my first podcast, so thank you.
I think it might be. Mm-hmm. You're very, very welcome. I wonder, because it is almost a year ago that we completed our pilot project, All About Us. And I wondered if you'd like to start at the very beginning of the story. So you'd been working, delivering creative life story work for younger children and their foster carers and pastoral support workers. And I remember that a couple of the local authorities put out a call to say, what would this look like for our care leavers? And that's all we did. We put out the call to our associate artists and said, what would it be like? We had a meeting, didn't we, with some of the with some of the PAs, the personal assistants, and I remember that you came armed with a load of questions.
Lots of questions. Lots of questions. And I think, like, from that initial call out that Blue Cabin sent to the associate artist team, it's almost like a bat signal. I remember just being really, really interested, because with the All About Me sessions that I was delivering, I had delivered those for groups between 5 and 16. I sort of covered all the different age ranges, because I was really interested in how the activities would be received, explored with different age groups. So I was really interested when the prospect of working with care leavers came up, because I was really interested in how it might be the same, how it might be different, what are the knowns, what are the unknowns. So yes, when we met with the team of experts who consisted of personal advisors and staff from the different councils, it was just loads of questions that we had of what do we know, what do we not know, but also really asking them what their dreams and aspirations were for the work. And they became kind of guiding principles in the planning and the thinking about how we might approach this, and what they really wanted for the young adults who were going to be joining us on this pilot project. And from those sort of guiding lenses, and that they wanted the sessions to help build confidence, to encourage working with and sharing ideas and support with peers. They wanted the sessions to look forwards towards future aspirations. They wanted the sessions to, and said they needed to be really flexible in their approach, and they very much needed to be fun. So they were kind of like our criteria to work with, which were really, really useful.
That I love those guiding principles, but also really crucial to have had that input from those experts in South Tyneside and Darlington as a starting point. And I remember that as being a really exploratory and open conversation where anything was possible and we were allowed to ask as many questions as we liked. So that was really key to us understanding what some of the differences were going to be before we even met the group.
Totally. And in terms of content, I think at that point I shared the stuff that I'd been doing in the All About Me sessions, but very open to not doing that, which is quite interesting because in the end I went on a whole journey trying like loads of different framing sort of narrative arcs almost of what these sessions could be like. And I did end up coming back to where I began, but I needed to go on that journey. But that conversation then really helped conversations that I had with Nick Golightly, another Blue Cabin associate artist who was working with care leavers in a prison setting. So we had really, really good conversations about ways of working. And then we kind of designed our own... Well, that's when we came up with the title All About Us, because from that initial conversation, the idea of sharing with others and the support of the group and actually really harnessing the power of the group felt really, really important. And it was a word that became very important throughout the whole process was interdependence, not just for these young people who are starting their adventures in the world. Yes, independence is really important, but the interdependence of like the support networks that they have and building on those and really strengthening them. So Nick and I came up with the sort of the All About Us framework, or again, another set of guiding principles that was kind of very much taken from that initial conversation, which were the power of the group, the sessions being future focused, they needed to build confidence, the establishing of rules and boundaries being really, really important, that which we do in all of our sessions, whatever the age group, but that felt really key, as well as which space it was going to be in. So with All About Me, we often were in an arts and cultural space delivering the sessions that might be new to the young people and their trusted adults. But actually for All About Us, it felt really important to be in a familiar space, that actually we were being welcomed into a space that was owned by the group. And also we decided that whereas with All About Me, we would have 6 weeks worth of stuff, brilliant, exciting, creative stuff in packs for each young person taking part. And we wanted it to be more flexible. So we decided not to predetermine the activity through the use of resources. So that was another decision that we wanted, that we made in order to stay flexible. But the first session did involve a beautiful package of beautiful stationery that we knew we'd definitely be using, because who doesn't love stationery? And
the power of a gift of stationery.
Honestly, it's such a joy. And I always do that. I've delivered it online a number of times with All About Me, but when it's in person, I like to play a bit of pass the parcel, so I do layers. So we have like a layer, unlock that, and then there's an activity with each bit of stationery that we do. It's so exciting. I love it. But before we even got to that point, we had an amazing session with a group of young researchers who had worked with you in the past, hadn't they, Dawn?
That's right.
Who were just brilliant. We had an online session with them, and we talked about these sort of principles and the sort of the way that we had adapted the themes of All About Me to All About Us, which included sort of the All About Me themes of my favourite things became who am I and who are we as a group, that first session. We had, in the 2 pilots we did, there was in Darlington, the group, most of them knew each other very well, whereas in South Tyneside, they didn't know each other at all. So it was very much about the start of the journey, like, what's the story of this group? Who are we? Became kind of an overarching theme. This Is Me became our world, like who and what is around us currently. My feelings became about our health and well-being. The people in my life became our social and support networks. Places I have lived became our future. And my future became, who are we as a group now? Who are we and who am I and we as a group now? So it was kind of, thinking about that future focus throughout. So we shared that and some of the ideas for activities in this session with young researchers who were just so honest and thoughtful in their feedback. It was just so brilliant. And I think there was some really key things that came out of that, which I really needed to hear at the time, because I was going a bit backwards and forwards of like, what is the creative activity? What I was trying to find something new. And the one young man said, "You're never too old to play." And it was wonderful. And actually he was sat there with his son on his lap. And
that was like the light bulb moment, wasn't it, in that session?
It really was. And it was like, maybe I was sort of going, because they're older, I maybe need to step away from... And it goes against, that sort of thinking. I was kind of like fighting myself a lot with it. And that just allowed me to really go, hang on a minute, what is it that I find the most fun and playful? And then from that, had a really brilliant conversation with Professor Richard Rose. He also just underlined, he was like, no, that's really useful. And yourself, Dawn, as well. We had lots of good conversations. Sometimes I find, as a theatre maker, when I'm going into a group for the first time, who might never have experienced theatre, like, what is it? Like, and actually it's something that you can't touch because, there's theatrical moments in everyday life. But actually leaning into that rather than stepping away from it, I've found really useful. So we made mini theatres with the group, as I have done in All About Me sessions. And it does provide a really interesting and fruitful metaphor. So when everybody makes their own theatre, they decorate it how they want and show the world their front of house, like, this is what I want the world to see about me. And then they have that private space in the dressing room what I found as well with the care leavers, they took so much time over their dressing room space of like getting it exactly how they wanted it and who they might invite in there. And it does become this very quite powerful metaphor to explore these themes. And then through that, we created a forest of trees and a massive tree as well, like absolutely huge. And then we created a shadow play of where they are now, where they would like to be in a year's time, and where they'd like to be in 5 years' time. And that was really, really fruitful and felt very positive. And the Faye, who was the personal advisor for Darlington, knew the young people so well, which was absolutely fantastic and integral actually to the project working. She really got stuck in and they encouraged her to, and I think the group sort of grew throughout the process. And the same with in South Tyneside, where we had Susan, who was a brilliant pastoral support worker. It was a slightly different setup because she didn't know the young people before the sessions, but was amazing, got stuck in, like played games, and actually I think that there's the power of the group really felt very real.
And that, I think, was one of the things we noticed was in All About Me. It's very much about developing that relationship between the child and the foster carer. Mm-hmm. But so we're almost going from that individual relationship to here the collective relationship, but where the PA is, so it's a shift, isn't it, from the trusted adult through to the personal advisor, nurturing, developing and strengthening those relationships within the group where they're, as you say, integral to it. Because Faye and Susan's role was at the heart really as well, wasn't it?
I couldn't do any of the stuff that I was planning on, all that planning and thinking time couldn't have happened without their support and you know, getting people to places that they needed to be, having that up-to-date information about what's going on for that person this week, like, because things change so much. The levels of responsibility that are part of a care leaver's life is much different to, you know, they're looking after the bills and they might have caring responsibilities themselves. And actually one session we had someone's son join us for the session, so childcare becomes part of the thinking as well. And I think it really, we talked quite a bit about taking a leap of faith because it was a pilot, because we were trying it out. We were very clear with everybody who's taking part that we were trying something, and actually their honest feedback about it was really, really important. But even just to step into a room when you know it's a creative session and but you don't necessarily know what it's going to be, I think that's stepping over the threshold, even if it is a familiar space of like, what is this going to be like? Meeting a new person, she's got a weird friend, and she looks a bit wacky. She likes playing games. She's obsessed with biscuits. What is this going to be? And I just think there was a real bravery, I think, from everybody to sort of come along and give it a go. And yeah, I think it's really nice, like looking back a year ago, to how much I learnt those two pilots and how much it's sort of informing the work that I've been doing ever since.
Yeah. So what are some of the things that you've taken on into other bits of work that those young people have steered for you?
I think a big thing, I'm a planner. I always plan more than is needed, always. And that, I just don't think that's ever going to change. I am the bag lady. I always take so much stuff because I like to have a backup plan and a backup plan for the backup plan and things like that. But something I really, really noticed with the groups was the time taken over each activity was much longer than it was when I've been working with younger people. And I probably had assumed that it would have been the opposite. But it really wasn't. It was like things took a lot longer because creating something that they were proud of, and you know, they took time and care over everything. So that was a real bit of learning for me, because I guess I'm often like, oh, and then we can do this, and then we can do this. But it made me slow down, which was really, really good. And I think I've been working with older people a little bit more. I've been working with parents and carers on different projects recently, and also care leavers in a prison setting with creative aid. And again, it's just it's actually taking time. The sessions as well, interestingly, that with Darlington we kind of doubled them up, so that there was, rather than 6 1.5 hour sessions, we did 3 3-hour sessions on a Saturday morning, which I was unsure of whether that was going to be a good time, in all honesty. But it worked really well, and the feedback was that it's a great way to start our weekend. Like, I'm up and I'm doing, and I'm not... and weekends can be quite a lonely time. You've got this 2 days expansive space where if there isn't any planned activity, then that's quite a long time. So that did work really well. And what really surprised me was, like, after 3 hours, the group didn't want to leave. In fact, they didn't want to take a break. I had to enforce breaks, which really surprised me. And also we did the South Tyneside group we did the 6 1.5 hour sessions, but the feedback halfway through was the sessions are too short, so we changed it to 2 hour sessions. And so yeah, time has been a very interesting, like the way I think about the time of a session has changed, actually, like allowing things to sit a little bit more
and settle. And then listen. Ruth, it's been really, really lovely to just remember the time and care that you and a whole myriad of others put into the actual creating of the container of All About Us, and what that was, and the changes and flexibility that happened at every level as you were going through, listening to the PAs, listening to the young researchers, testing it out with Nick, and then right to the very end, changing the plan mid-session as well, in response to what you were hearing back from those young people in the room with you. How fantastic. Would you have any tips or thoughts for consideration for any others who are about to embark on working with young care leavers? What would your parting tip be?
I think just in what you've just said about listening, that it's just so key. And I think it was such a privilege to spend time with this amazing group of young adults who are planning such exciting things in their futures, that it's such a privilege to be able to listen. And I think keep your ears open. And I was trying to think of a way of putting something about open-armed but open-eared. I don't know, that doesn't quite work. I think I need to try to work on that a little bit more. Open arms, open ears, open heart. That's what I saw and heard. That's lovely. Yeah. Oh, that's a good one.
Thank you, Ruth. Lovely to speak to you this morning.
Thanks for having me.
We're going to have a short break, so please feel free to go away and charge your cups. Afterwards, we're going to be chatting with Faye from Darlington Borough Council.
We want people to gain more of an understanding about what it's like to be care experienced, and to have a better understanding of what it actually means.
Could creative life story work make a difference to the care experienced children and young people you work with? Maybe you're a social worker.
I think we forget at our peril that actually telling a child the story of their early life is one of the most profound uses of social work power that we could ever operate.
Perhaps you're a foster carer.
You know, when they say it's all about the child, it's not, because our experiences, it's about the carer and the child. And it just gives a new angle to our relationship because we're learning about each other together.
A Creative Life Story Work membership will give you, or your whole team, access to resources, including activities you can use in direct work with children and young people, training with life story work experts, and lots more.
And I think a lot of our children are looking for meaning, looking for, well, why is it I feel this way when my friends don't? Why is it I get angry internally and my friends don't? The greatest thing we see is when we are able to say to young people, this is your story, this is about who you are. And then children towards the end say, it's not my fault that these things happened, but it is something that I can do something about. And once we have that, then we know we can move forward.
Find out about our membership for individuals and for organisations on our website, creativelifestorywork.com.
Really lovely today to bump into Faye Marsh, who was key to us developing creative life story work for care leavers in Darlington. Faye, welcome as part of the Darlington Extra Conference today, and so pleased that you come and have a few words with us.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
You're very, very welcome. I wondered if you would describe what All About Us, as we decided to call it, what was all of that about, and what were the first steps to us developing that piece of work with yourself and a group of young care leavers in Darlington?
Mm-hmm. So at first we attended quite a lot of pilot meetings, and it was about us identifying the young people to attend the project. And and we delivered a programme over 3 weeks on a Saturday morning.
Where was that? Because we had quite a chat, didn't we, about where it was going to be? Where were they delivered?
It was at our office at Pease House, so at Pease House in Darlington. But it starts early on, even before the sessions start. It's about reminding the young people about the sessions, go and collecting them, so that they can attend the session, because it's about also encouraging them and getting them motivated to attend them sessions. So it started before the project started, so yeah, and it was a success.
And that's absolutely key in terms of us. We had a model of creative life story work which was for kind of up to 18-year-olds, and then we made some adaptations to it with your support, your advice, and other colleagues' advice from Darlington. And so I wondered, what are some of the things that you remember from those sessions? What were the highlights that you remember from those sessions?
Well, I worked alongside Ruth, she was actually amazing, and it was about making it fun. In the creative sessions, the young people didn't actually... They totally went into it straight away.
Was that a surprise?
Yeah, it was a surprise, and they didn't want the sessions to end. So each session was over 3 hours, but we could have done more. We could have done more with this group of young people. We've seen them at first, maybe not be open at first, but soon as the creative way and putting them thoughts and feelings about who am I, where do I want to be. And I think everybody finds that difficult, talking about themselves, but when you're doing it in a creative way and drawing it, and here I am now, and where do I want to be in the next 5 years, they surprised me, to be quite honest, and I think I found that task more difficult than what they did. But it was nice to see their ambitions, their aspirations of where they want to be, and even the simplest little milestone is, I want my own home. Where do I want to be? And when we talk about Maslow's triangle, about stability, that's a big worry for our care leavers. What is that next step? And we've seen that through our journey of our sessions.
Lovely. And you talked about it starting before the sessions, and I know a lot of care and thought was put into what do we need to put in place in order for those young people to even get to the sessions as first? And I wondered if you, as you were key to that happening, I wondered if you wanted to say something about what you actually did to make sure that those young people could get into the sessions at Pease House.
So, as I say, it was the gentle reminders via text and telephone calls before the day before. It was a wake-up call in the morning. Are you up? Are you ready for the session? And then the next step was I'd open the building for Ruth to prepare the session, and I would go and collect them. A couple of them would get the bus and were able to transport themselves there, but to ensure that our young people attended the session, I'd go and collect them. So we always had a full house.
And did you get to join in the sessions as well?
I did.
What were some of the things that you did?
We enjoyed the icebreaking games, and what I really liked was it was our stage, and our characters and who was important, and to be quite honest, theirs was better than mine.
Always good to model doing it badly, I find.
Yes, no, it was fantastic, and it was, where do I want to be now? Where do I want to be in a year's time? Where do I want to be in 5 years' time? And actually getting my thought process, where do I actually want to be, and actually thinking about me rather than thinking about these young people that we're working with, and they were saying, come on Faye, come on. But I did do the test and I found it really enjoyable, and it was good to see the group connect as well and form relationships after that.
Amongst themselves.
Yes, and it is, I always say, leaving care as a community, and they feel comfortable and safe, it's non-judgmental, and we did our ground rules and what we thought and about being respectful, and it was a success. It was a set,
And because you were so integral to that group being set up and running, I wonder if you're able to say anything about you as a professional, some of the skills that you might have picked up along the way from working alongside an artist and those young people, and whether they're transferable in any way to other groups that you're working with?
Definitely the creative side. Young people find it difficult to talk if you sat across them, and they engage better and express their views and opinions more if they're actually active and doing something, and that you're not face to face looking at them. And I always say walking and talking and going on activities or in a car is the best. But actually I found this really, really useful. As you say, the tasks that we were given throughout the sessions did challenge them, but made them think about actually who am I and where do I want to be. Do you know what I mean? And that was the focus.
Yeah, lovely. And I'm wondering, because that was a pilot, it was the first time that we'd done creative life story work with older care leavers. And I wondered about what difference that's made to life story work delivery in Darlington.
It wasn't too intrusive, and at first when I explained about this pilot, we did have our safe space, and some of our young people on the sessions thought that some issues might trigger anything, but it didn't go that deep. It was talking about, as you say, who am I and where do I want to be. That was for another sort of session, do you know what I mean? Not for that. And it's throughout their life story and who is important to them, and it was really, really good with tying that in with our promise tree as well, who is important to them on the different, and we did that. And it wasn't too intrusive, and it didn't take them out of their comfort zones.
And I wonder if I asked you, if we were thinking forward 10 years, what are your hopes for creative life story work across the lifespan in Darlington?
I definitely think that there needs to be more projects working with our care leavers, because as I say, from 16 we work with care leavers from 16 to 25, and I know that lots of the projects at the moment are tailored to mother and babies or our younger children in care, and definitely this project was a success, and I would like to see more of that happen.
That's fantastic. Faye, thank you very much for giving your lunch hour to talk to us today.
No, it was a pleasure.
Whether you're a foster carer, someone who has experience with the care system, or you work with children and young people, we hope this episode has given you an insight into how we can make life story work better for young people and how you can use it in your own practice. You can find out more about creative life story work on our website, creativelifestorywork.com, and you can find us on LinkedIn and Twitter, or X as it's now called, at creativelsw. Please do get in touch though with any comments or questions, as we'd really love to hear from you. If your podcast app allows you to, please do leave us a review, as it really helps others to find our show. So until next month, bye bye for now.